Hello, everyone. I was going to play a game on Pandanet because I've just been sort of feeling like it lately, and I thought I could try to rank up my original Pandanet account that I've sort of had for videos for a while. It's at the 2Q rank now, and I thought maybe we could try to get that up to the Dawn ranks to see sort of what's different on Pandanet because it's one of those servers where I think I've never really tried to rank up an account. I wasn't sure how long it was going to take to get a game, so I just asked for a game real quick, see how long it would take, and I was going to play one while I was eating some food or something, and ended up getting actually a pretty interesting game, so I thought I could do a basic review. So this game I thought was a really great example of how to take advantage of your opponent's weaknesses, and after taking advantage, how to actually attack the group or how to fight back. Even though I'm not the best at fighting, I think this was still a pretty good example of what you should be keeping in mind while you are playing here. My opponent also plays a couple moves that were just too slow, that were not really that important at the time they played them, and I want to highlight those as well. I was black in this game, and because of how Pandanet works, it is a minus 5.5 Komi, so it's a reverse Komi, which is a little bit interesting, but I don't have the burden of Komi, so I'm probably just going to be ahead for a very long time in this game. That's one of the things I'm not 100% certain I like about Pandanet, but it's still interesting to have those types of games. So in this game, I decided to play the Orthodox opening. This is something I used to play quite a long time ago. And I guess I should turn on some coordinates here so you guys can see that. There we go. Yeah, so I'm just playing the Orthodox opening. My opponent decides to approach, and this is one of the moves that I really like here. Because the standard Joseki, just to highlight for fun, is if they attach here, and make sure my volume's not too high and that volume's not too high as well. They attach here, we do this basic Joseki that you see all over the place. It feels like this is actually working with what I already have because it's pointed directly towards my enclosure. And I can just add another move to the bottom left here. And now I'm starting to also get a potential large Moyo. Of course, it's not going to be this big, but you can see how fast I'm developing. And I really like this type of opening. Any other move, you can't really build it the same way. And that just feels very natural. So I like it a lot. But my opponent decides to just back off. Very old school sort of move. You don't really see that anymore. I think you see that more on Pandanet for sure. And I approach in the upper left, right? My opponent has an extension from their start point. So I want to make sure they don't get the enclosure with the circle here. Just keeping it very, very basic opening idea. And so we do get to play the Joseki that I like to play here. And this is one of the first moves where my opponent plays a little bit too slowly. They push again right now at d13. Usually this is considered to be okay. If we go back to this point, I kind of had two options. Instead of just approaching them at c14, I could have also approached them at f3 to try and build my own area. And as black, I'm able to build faster than white is able to build. So usually this is a pretty good idea for me. Now, if we go back here, me approaching over here means that they should get something on the bottom side first, kind of no matter what happens. So if we go through the Joseki here, they get Sente, and now they can either enclose, maybe do some sort of shoulder hit or something, or if they want to start building the top side, they could jump from the top area right now. I still think taking the bottom side is a little more important, but this would also be consistent with what they already have on the board. However, they decided just to push here to keep building the top side, but the wrong side of the top. This is not a Sente move, so I do play away. And they also do this double Hane right away, which is another move that's not actually Sente. So I play away again. So it's not Sente, because if we capture this stone, they did not do this in the game, but if they capture this stone, then we can just go back and capture the stones in the corner, and we're alive. And we're actually alive with a decent amount of points, right? We captured 2 stones there, so that's at least 4. Then there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and almost 10 points, basically. And 10 points for a corner is a very decently sized corner. Plus, I got 2 moves on the outside, right? 2 moves on the outside to get some more profit as well. So this feels like an extremely good result for black. It doesn't mean white's going to lose this game. It's just black is playing more efficiently. And if white decides to play from the other direction, where we don't want to give him that big corner, black is able to just connect here, which is threatening to capture a stone with all the Ataris. So white has to connect. And now black is already alive again. We can play away. If they throw in or something, they can't do this. We already have the eye, so I have to connect here. When they turn, we still have this eye. We're already alive. We don't really need to play another move. It's okay for this group to live with just 2 points because in compensation, we did get something, right? We already got a few moves in a row. We can play them anywhere on the board. I just kept them in the same area. But we got some extra moves other places, which means we still got points from that upper left corner because they wasted moves in the upper left while we were able to get moves that made direct points somewhere else. It's important to think about how big or how useful your moves are, or if it's actually something that's important. Because again, it happens a little bit later. So I take the corner because that's just an easy way to punish instead of doing a double approach or something that's more complicated. This one's a little bit simpler. And they block towards the bottom side. And I could play differently, but this is just easy. We do the Hane to keep it very similar to Joseki. If they connect here, we just jump, and then they can do this move to make it similar to another Joseki, but I just get Sentei instead of them getting Sentei. But when they do this move, I'm able to pull back to see what Aji is available. If they just connect, I still go back, and they can still attack me. And in the game, what they do is they attack first, which means I have some Aji here if I want to use it. And then I go back and save. They could, again, go back and protect now, but I feel like that's already a good result for me anyway, so it's okay. And it's still possible for me to turn here to separate the stones if I have enough strength later. So they decide to make their group a little bit bigger first by pushing once, which is Sentei, but then they push again. And it's actually the same sort of problem as before. Normally, the Hane at the head of 2 stones would be a big move to play. And if I was doing a basics game, I probably would just extend here because preventing the Hane ahead of 2 stones is usually a good move to do. But in this case, we can think about what they're going to get from that Hane. And when you think about it enough, you realize they're not really going to get that much. I play the bottom side, and then they get this Hane. They push through first, but they get this Hane. And I connected just to see how they defended their group. And they made this sort of fun shape here. So before we look at the weaknesses now that we're going to take advantage of, you can really see that my one move has a potential gain of like 6 or maybe even 8 points, depending on how you want to calculate this. I like to think of it a little bit less, but we can call it 6 points for now. Yes, they can invade that area, but it's my move right now, so I could defend it too. And what they've gained here, it's hard to say an exact value, but we can say it's maybe around the same amount of points. But they do have a very large influence, so it's hard to say like who is better, but they already had that influence, right? Even if I did just keep extending earlier, they already had that influence. They could keep going themselves. If we go back one, just one move here, they still have basically the same amount of influence towards that center area. So nothing's really that different in that regard. But this move that I get to play instead is sort of reducing them and pointing out some weaknesses. So after they get this, this way, when I approached, they did bump first, which made me stronger, which actually gave me the points. But then they did the Hane. There you go. I was like, why isn't it going to the right spot? It was. So they did do this. I do connect just to see how they respond. And then now I have a lot of weaknesses to try to use. There are multiple cutting points. So there's this one that's an Atari. And then this one that is threatening to kill the 2 stones underneath it. And then I could also split it 3 instead. I consider that a cutting point to some degree as well. So how do I use this and what order do we use this in? Well, I have to think about what's going to be the easiest way to handle this sort of fight. If we cut it 2, I just want to highlight this real quick. If we cut it 2 and they're just crawling underneath, we don't really have that many liberties on our stones. That doesn't mean we can't handle it, but it seemed like this is probably not the cut we want to do. So you'd have to read a little bit here, but I'm going to guess 1 and 3 are more likely the more useful moves here. Would you play 3 first, or would you play the cut first? That's the question you have to ask yourself. I think if you play 3 first, your group could end up being heavy, right? If we jump out here in some way, in the game, this is sort of what happened, something like this, then it looks like, well, maybe now we can cut and it's going to be a little bit severe. But now if we cut, maybe they give that up. And now they're surrounding us. And if they can read it out really well, maybe there's a chance that we don't have enough liberties and they have more liberties. I don't know that part. I'm just saying that if they can read it, maybe we're actually in even more trouble. So they could give up that stone if they really want to. So before making my group heavy, before investing into that idea, I decide to cut first. Because if they give up the stone right now, and they just sort of fix all this stuff, maybe I don't want to rescue this because it could be possible that I'm just running straight into their area where their wall is. And if I can't live, then I might just lose the game. So instead of playing this way, I would want to play a different way. I could probably turn once if I really wanted to introduce a little bit of Aji because they should connect. But I'm probably just going to give up the stones. I'm not going to save the stones anymore. I'm going to give them up. I'm going to force them to capture the stones and just defend here. What I'm doing is I'm reducing the amount of value that this is. It's a lot smaller than it was before, but I'm also increasing the amount of potential I have on my side. This is another good option that I have. So if I do the cut first, even if I don't capture right away, if they do this outside move and I know they're giving up the stones, well, now I know that I probably want to give up my stones as well. I don't necessarily want to save them. But if my opponent decides to connect, well, now we definitely have some Aji. We can see that even with this cut, my opponent only really has 4 liberties here, so they're in a little bit of trouble already. But 4 liberties is enough that they don't have to worry. If it was 3 liberties, then we could maybe extend here and do some sort of crane's nest tessagy where you attach here and do this sort of thing. But the problem is there's just too many liberties to do that right now, so not really what we can do. But we need to get rid of 1 more liberty before that sort of thing could even be possible. Yeah. So that doesn't quite work, which means that I don't want to cut that way. I want to threaten the group in a larger way, which is why we're going back to this move. And this is what happened in the game, similar to what I showed a little bit earlier. Now it looks a little bit like I could potentially capture this group. But unless I can read it out perfectly, I don't want to go for the capture right away. What I mean is I could extend here. They get to probably push. We could maybe extend again. And there's this cut. And then if I have enough liberties, then this could be a really great way to try to kill the group. And in this case, I would have enough. But if I'm unsure, because I could probably play it a little bit differently as well. If I'm unsure if I have enough liberties, then it's not the best way to play. So if you can read it all out, you're good. But as I said, if you can't read it out, you need to find a more appropriate technique to handle the situation. So what I decided was that if I can pull the stone out like this, they have to try to push and cut in order to survive, because otherwise I just have too many liberties, obviously. So if they cut here and I already have this move on the board, I feel like it might be easier to handle the situation, because maybe there's also a possibility that, let's say, I already have this move on the board, so let's say they jump this way. Maybe there's some sort of ladder thing that could work. In this case, I believe it, I got to double check that ladder there. Oh. Yeah, I think the ladder does actually work right now. So I just need 1 extra move. I thought I read it out in the game, but looking at it again, I wasn't exactly sure, because it sort of snakes all the way around over here, and it's real close to both sides. But we're playing the Atari at 016, and then the Atari at Q15, and there's already a move at 016. So we can capture here with P17. You can try to read that out if you want to. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But yeah, I just need 1 extra move to make it so that I could bring those stones out without any issue whatsoever. So instead of worrying about the amount of liberties, I decided to rescue my stones first. When you're in the middle of a fight and you're wanting to play a move, usually you go in the opposite direction. There's the art of war, right? If you want to attack from the west, you make noise in the east, sort of thing. What was that? What was that thing? I don't remember exactly, but you lean on another group in order to get strength to then attack a different group. So this is a leaning attack in this case. And then if they go to fix this problem, we're able to push over the top here and maybe try to surround this group and really attack it in a very severe way, which is basically what happened in the game. So they didn't play the Atari, which is the move they should play to get rid of all the Aji. They played this attachment, which gave me this really nice shape here, nice little tiger's mouth shape, threatening to Hane to cut everything off. So they should go back, but they do this move slightly wrong. So I turn over the top, and this is where I find people usually making the most mistakes. Because when they see this sort of fight, what they're thinking is that, well, if we go this direction, I'm making so many points this way, right? We're making a ton of points. And it's kind of true. If you can run them out that way, you can make a ton of points. But now your group is in a ton of danger as well. We need to save this group now. So now you have to be very careful. This is not the proper way to attack. It's the tempting way to attack, but not the proper way to attack. So if we go back one here, instead of playing from that side, we always play from our weakest area towards our strongest area. I would say this is the weakest group. And so this side's the strongest area that we have. So we always want to be moving that direction and pushing them in that direction, even though it looks like we're pushing them into our territory. But if our weak group is strong, we can actually be more aggressive. So you can actually see how much more points we end up making. So I push one time here. If I do the knight's move now, I was worried that some sort of stupid cut thing could work. So I didn't want to do that. So push one time, they extend, then I do knight's move, they jump. And then I do still think the middle group is my weakest group. Yes, I have a weakness on the bottom side, right? There is some weakness here, but I'm okay with giving up some points in exchange for making my weakest group stronger. So I play this knight's move here. Yes, it can be cut, but there's no reason to cut because they're just going to be in too much trouble if they do that. There's actually, from one of my favorite books, this shape here, it doesn't highlight, but this shape here was known as the bow shape, and it's an attacking shape for applying pressure or pushing your opponent in a specific direction. So they push and then push and push, and as you can see, we're getting very strong. And so all that potential that we had in this area is gone, but it's not like it's completely removed from the board because now it's just over here. And maybe because of this strength that we have in the center, we can now invade the top side somewhere or really reduce any of the potential that our opponent had, right? Our opponent could have made points in this area, but now they definitely can't, or at least not as easily make points in this area. So we're in a very good situation. They do end up getting something on the bottom side, right? Like I said, I'm okay with giving up some points on the bottom side or giving up some sort of profit, even if they did a different type of invasion. I'm okay with them just connecting everything up, and I'm just keeping basically the corner. Maybe I don't even. I guess this is fine because this should still be fine for me right here, right? So like this is probably going to be okay. And if I'm even worried about that, I can pull back if I'm really, really worried about this sort of thing. They can live, they can have some profit if they really want to. I'm not even going to try to fight back because I got profit on the other side. I'm already very happy. They go low, which is maybe wrong in this case because when they're trying to connect back, they can't make eyes with this connection. And even if they go towards the corner, that's not making any eyes. So not quite the right idea, but that part's not really too important. What's important was this idea of how I attacked him, how I got my profit from that attack. I just wrapped around my opponent and pushed them to where I was strongest. That was the entire goal. And I started from my weakest group towards my strongest area or my strongest groups. And that's sort of a proper way to do basic fighting in most games here. I did even have a fighting lecture for my study group that I made. I didn't upload it for everyone, but if you're in the study group or you join the study group on my Patreon, you can see that fighting lecture among my other lectures that I've done. And this is something I talk about quite a lot. So just the direction of how to fight, it's always pushing from your weakest area towards your strongest area. And one of the only reasons why this worked, I want to highlight this one more time. One of the only reasons why this worked is that there were two weaknesses, right? We could surround the bottom two stones, or we can try to bring out our cutting stone to attack the bottom left. Without both weaknesses, we wouldn't be able to manage this fight, or at least it would be significantly harder. For example, if our opponent, like let's say we had another exchange somewhere, if our opponent already had this stone on the board, I wouldn't be running this out, right? Because all we're getting here is a weak group that's going to be pushed the same way that I pushed him around. I mean, he's going to be pushing me around into his wall. And now I have to make sure to live somehow. Even if it's possible, it's not a good idea. Not only are we not going to be making any points here, but we're going to be solidifying the top side. This is probably going to be solid points. And we're going to get rid of all of our potential profit on the right side because of this wall in the center is going to eliminate it all. So I think that was really, really important to see and a very useful lesson to think about here. Now, just to sort of show you what happened, they didn't go greedy. I think they were trying to attack my group. And so they were thinking that For example, if I'm worried and I just connect up underneath, they can maybe cut here. And if they cut here, then maybe they're able to capture my stones. But my group is actually already connected. So I fixed my cutting point. They try to cut it off here, but they give me an eye. And this is where just pure reading and a little bit of knowledge comes into play. So I want to highlight this just a little bit, and then we can finish the review. They wanted to bring these 2 stones out because they think that if they can get enough liberties, they can maybe try to capture my group. And that makes sense to some degree. I'm not completely against the idea of it. But you do need a specific amount of moves on the side of the board in order to live. So we need 7 moves. There we go. You see how we have to get all the way to 7 here before we can even be close to alive. We need 8 in a row in order to officially be alive on the second line of the board here. So you can see how far that is, right? They have to travel quite a distance in order to get to that spot. And if they can't get there, they're likely just dead. So I can just jump here, and no matter how much they push here, I can probably just keep going and block at some point like this, and they're just going to be a dead group. There's not going to be much they can do about it. I could maybe even block a little bit earlier because I do have some supporting stones nearby, so it's definitely possible as well. But even if I let them go all the way, this is not enough space for 2 eyes. Now they just need enough liberties to kill me, but then it's going to be very difficult to get the right amount of liberties in that group to kill my group. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that for now. So they don't go all the way. They try to push. They're trying to take advantage of my weaknesses. I'm totally okay with that. When you have weaknesses with these types of situations, you usually do not want to block. Blocking is bad for your liberties because when they cut here, you eventually have to sometimes connect back because you have a severe cut as well. And we don't have any ladders or anything, so this is going to be slightly annoying. So instead of blocking directly, you can do a 1-point jump. When they push through here, you can sometimes even just defend again. But if you think about the situation for just a little bit longer, this is a liberty fight. Even if they cut through, we probably have enough liberties. So we actually don't need to worry about them cutting through right now because they don't have very many to work with. So we can just turn here and the group is dead. There's definitely no way to make enough liberties here to win. They only have 3 liberties. We could even play away now or just defend the right side and not worry about it as well. And there's no cut on the other side because we have this nice net and we're very, very solid now. They can maybe try to live with their group that's in the center here, that's cut off everywhere and maybe has a chance of making 2 eyes, but seems very difficult. Yeah, they went a little bit too far. After this turn, the game is definitely over. They do try a little bit more, and this was all just about reading here, but it's basically just a bunch of nets in a row. Then they mess up a little bit with the liberties for their group here because they tried to kill me because it looks like, right, just got through this really quickly, so don't worry about it right now. But it looks like I don't have an eye, right? This is not an eye. This is not really an eye, and they have an eye, so they were thinking they won, but actually I got to Tanuki 2 times because I have enough liberty. I got to Tanuki 3 times, right? Because if they Atari me, I can just capture their stones. That's because they didn't have any outside liberties to help them with the fight. They only had the inside liberties. So if they had the outside liberties, that may have worked. Anyway, I think this was an interesting game to check out. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And maybe I will play a few games here on, I was about to say Fox, on Pandanet. I'll get it right one of these days in my head. Yeah, maybe I'll play a few games here on Pandanet and we'll see how that goes. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything else you were wondering about for this game. And I hope you guys are having a good day and have fun.